Greetings. This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central. Once again, we're coming to you with a grin. We hope we leave you with one from your ear to your chin. We're going to do it one more time. What do we got for today? For proverb of the day, one is quite appropriate to our topic for today. Not all the flowers of a tree produce fruit. And that is a proverb from the area of Mauritania, West Africa. Poem for the day, also quite appropriate because we can do this one in honor of Mary Fields and also a young lady by the name of Breonna Taylor. It's called No Knock. So only the names are different, but the game is the same. So let's read No Knock from the mind of Gil Scott-Heron and the times of Doc Ock. Because this is definitely, well, I don't know if you can say it started in my era, but it certainly was known to happen in my area. They codified it, made it into a rule that this was a law that you could do this. No knock. To be slipped into Attorney General Barr's suggestion box. You explained it to me, Mr. Barr. I must admit, but just for the record, you was talking shit. Long raps about no knock being legislated for the people you've always hated in this hellhole that we call home. No knock, the man will say, to keep that man from beating his wife. No knock, the man will say, to keep people from hurting themselves. No knock, no knocking, head rocking, into shocking, shooting, cussing, killing, crying, lying, and being white. No knocked on my brother Fred Hampton, bullet holes all over the place. No knocked on my brother Michael Harris and jammed a shotgun against his skull. For my protection, who's going to protect me from you? The likes of you, the nerve of you to talk that shit face to face. Your tomato face deadpan, your deadpan deadening another freedom plan. No knocking, head rocking, into shocking, shooting, cussing, killing, crying, lying, and being white. But if you're wise, no knocker, you'll tell no knocking lackeys to no knock on my brother's heads and no knock on my sister's head and double lock your door. Because soon someone may be no knocking for you. No knock. That's what Gil Scott-Heron had to say about it. I may have to come up with a revised version of that, updated for the present time. But it's still just the same old rhyme in a different time. The names have changed, the places may have changed, but we all know the game is exactly the same. Instilling fear within the hearts of the young, the old, the bold, everybody from head to toe. That seems to be the game. Now let's see if I can recall where exactly did we leave off. Oh, yeah, we read this over here about this was about the part where okay, right. So we're going to read this last paragraph that I read yesterday over again. Perhaps Mother Amadeus thought it best to concentrate on Mary's skills to find employment. At 64 years old, Mary still feared no one. She was aggressive and could expertly handle 2 teams of horses better than any man around. Therefore, the Mother Superior managed to secure a job for which Mary was well qualified. Driver for the U.S. Mail. In fact, Mary's route was between Cascade and St. Peter's Mission, and this enabled her to see her friend and the other sisters on a regular basis. Thus, she became the second female mail carrier in the USA. At this, Mary excelled. Many took her for a man with the dark clothing, skull cap, and man's overcoat that she wore. Seated atop the stagecoach, she would hold the reins, crack the whip, and drive her team triumphantly into the mission. Notice they didn't mention no buddy up there on the stagecoach. Somebody riding shotgun. That's what riding shotgun meant. That's what it means. It still kind of means that today. But original meaning, riding shotgun, is somebody riding on a mail wagon delivering valuable goods, because that's how they delivered and transferred the gold, the money, the cash, whatever needed to be transferred. It got transferred through that U.S. mail. So this was a important job with a lot of responsibility they gave Mary, and she carried it out very expertly. So seated atop the stagecoach, she would hold the reins, crack the whip, and drive her team triumphantly into the mission, jolting wildly on the spring suspension that nearly catapulted her from her high perch. Everyone knew when the mail or passengers had arrived from Cascade with a jug of whiskey by her foot, a pistol packed under her apron, and a shotgun by her side. Stagecoach Mary, as she came to be called, was ready to take on any aggressor. The shotgun she toted was one of the most feared of guns. It could cut a man in two at short range, and Mary would not hesitate to do so. For 8 years, Mary carried mail on her 19-mile route. She was a swift and reliable courier, as dedicated an employee as there ever was. Not once did she miss a day's work. No rainstorm, snowstorm, or 40 below weather stopped her. Often she slept in the train terminal awaiting a delivery. Once, when her wagon was stranded in a Montana blizzard, she got down and paced the whole night, refusing to allow herself to freeze to death. If other weather extremes forced her to abandon her stagecoach, she strapped the mail bag over her broad shoulders and walked back to the mission. While she was en route one day, a pack of wolves frightened the horses and the stagecoach overturned. Mary held vigil all night, keeping the hungry wolves at bay with her pistol and shotgun. At daybreak, she was found alive, the mission supplies intact. Unconventional as she was, Mary obviously took her sworn oath to protect the U.S. mail very, very, very seriously. She wasn't the least bit bothered by the long hours and low pay. Mary suffered just one accident in all her years. She was thrown from the stagecoach. The Ursuline sisters nursed her back to health and also encouraged her return to the faith. Mary agreed and attended the high mass the next day in celebration of coming to church again. She wore a beautiful blue dress and a white veil fashioned for her by the nuns for the special occasion. In 1903, Mother Amadeus left Montana for Alaska to continue her missionary work. She bid a fond farewell to her dear friend Mary Field, who was not only too advanced in age to accompany her, but too old even to continue the arduous mail route. Thus, Stagecoach Mary, around 70 years old, retired at last from that job and moved permanently to Cascade. She began to settle into town life, where she opened a laundry service in her home. By through Mary Field's rough exterior, and people rushed to patronize her business. The generosity she'd shown in connection with her failed restaurants was well known. Now people stepped up to assist her. R.B. Glover, the owner of the Cascade Hotel, provided free meals for her, even when he leased the hotel to Kirk Huntley in 1910. It was with the condition that the meals would still be provided to the aging Mary Fields. In 1912, when Mary was 80 years old, her home was ravaged by a fire. The townspeople donated their time and supplies to rebuild her home and laundry. Mary seemed to mellow as the years went by. The townspeople entrusted the care of their children to her to babysit, and she showered her charges with treats. She spent hours in her beautiful garden, tending her many flowers. Catholic services were held at Wedgeworth Hall, and Mary took pride in dedicating the altar with the flowers she had cultivated. She became an avid fan of the town's baseball team and even became their mascot. Besides traveling with the players to games, she took care of their bats and saw that those who hit home runs were rewarded. Mary made bouquets for the big hitters on her team and gave flower boutonnieres to the players on both sides. But if an umpire dared to make a call against her team, Mary's temper would come into full force again. The old and young of Cascade came to love Mary Fields. She was a colorful character, and though she spent many an hour in the town saloons, her honor was never questioned. Her quick wit, her eagerness to talk politics, and her caring ways endeared her to everyone. Legendary cowboy film star Gary Cooper clearly remembered seeing Mary Fields in Cascade when he was 9 years old. She herself was just past 80 at the time, and he was most impressed by her. Come on now, get back over there. There we go. He was most impressed by her great bearing, her capacity to put away liquor, her excellent marksmanship, and of course, the wreaths of smoke emanating from her cigar. Well, who wouldn't be? That's everything that Mary was all about. Though Mary never knew the exact date of her birth, she celebrated her birthday twice a year. The schools either closed down for the celebration or dismissed early whenever she declared it was her birthday. And Mary would give candy to the children. The celebration of her 83rd birthday was a town event. Mary had been around Cascade for some 30 years. Ribbon badges were distributed that read Mary Fields 1830 to 1913 birthday anniversary, March 15, and a good time was had by all. Mary Fields, who took great pride in always holding her own, saw her health begin to decline in her remaining years. She reluctantly spent the last month of her life in bed. Now, you know, that's odd for Mary, right? The fiercely independent soul tried to slip away without burdening anyone. When death was imminent, she took her birds with her on a cold December night and laid down in a field outside her home to await death. Like death was coming on a stagecoach or something. As fate would have it, Lester W. Monroe and his three brothers came across Mary in some tall weeds. She was very near death. Their Mr. and Mrs. D.W. Monroe, the second mayor of Cascade, were summoned, and Mary was brought to the Columbus Hospital in Great Falls. Every comfort was given to her. There she died from a severe case of dropsy, which people now call edema or edema. Still don't know what that is. Either way, I forgot to look that up. Her death on December 5th, 1914 was marked by the entire town as the passing of a legend. The townspeople made sure every detail of her funeral was seen to. The service was held in the Pastime Theater and was one of the largest in Cascade history. The abundance of floral arrangements was seen as a tribute to the townfolk's beloved neighbor, and many friends came to pay their last respects. A priest from St. Peter's Mission said her mass. Leaders of the town served as pallbearers. Mary Fields was laid to rest at the foot of the mountains in the hillside cemetery that led to St. Peter's Mission. Today, the ruins of this mission are all that remain, but the legend of Mary Fields lives on. Her home was moved from its original site and became the living room section of the Herman Wolf Ranch, 1.5 miles north of Cascade. 60 years after meeting the legendary Mary Fields on the streets of Cascade, Gary Cooper stated that she was one of the freest souls ever to draw a breath or a 38. And many early Montanans were the better for having known her. So just in case you think We don't have nothing to do with Montana. Better think some more. She didn't leave it. She might not have left behind any relatives, relations, or anything like that. But like they said, she left behind a legend. The legendary Mary Stagecoach Fields. So we're moving on. That's the end of the story, obviously, of Mary Stagecoach Fields. Still waiting on that movie. I don't know why Gary Cooper didn't vie for a movie to be made about it since he was so enthralled by her. But at any rate, we're still waiting on that day. But now you know the story. So now you can pass it on to somebody else. Have them watch this video, or you can tell them the story yourself. Either way you go. There's 3 parts to it. So they have to watch all 3 parts. It will be part of our weekly rewind coming up this Saturday. So they can look for it then. Last week, I got a little confused. Still working with the stupid Facebook. They keep changing their format. And yeah, it throws me off every time they do it. But fortunately, they don't do it that often. And hopefully they won't do it for quite a while, at least for another year. But at any rate, Mary Stagecoach Fields' story will be part of the weekly rewind. So look for Doc Ock's weekly rewind on Saturday at noon. And of course, we are in the midst of our fall fundraising campaign. We're calling it 2020. And that's because we're trying to raise $20,000 by September 20, which is around the corner in the year 2020. So it's a 420 campaign. Yeah. Another way to think about 420. So if you'd like to donate, please send us a donation via PayPal. Don't send it as a payment. Just send it as money to a friend, because we're trying to be your friends. Hopefully, we are very friendly, if nothing else. And the address, just use my email address, kkhemet@gmail.com. And we thank you. This is Doc Ock signing out. Peace out. Without a doubt, we'll be black right here tonight at 9 o'clock, because this is Doc Ock at noon and 9 signing out.